Welcome to tonight's October 2023 meeting of the Minnesota Astronomical Society. Welcome everybody who is in-house and everyone that is online tonight. Glad you could join us. And I have featured a couple of slide deck pictures from Mr. Alon Touchberry. And this is his Saturn photo. Was that off of a cell phone or? No. Okay, I'm just kidding. So, Alon, just tell us a little bit about your Saturn picture. And I need a microphone, which is hiding. All right, it's on. There you go.
So I got a new camera, QHY 53678 color, and said I'm going to go out and try to do some planetary imaging with my C14, which I had not done before. So I was down at Cherry Grove, popped it in at the Casa Green Focus. So I had a 3,910 millimeter focal length with 2 micron pixels. With a little bit of help from Chris Setness on fire capture, I was able to grab this and go process it. And so this is my first real planetary image through my C14.
Excellent, thank you. And yes, it does look good. Okay, not every picture from CGO is it's all going to be great. It just happens to be my resolution of whatever I've got on here. So.
And it is upside down because I forgot to.
Okay, everybody at home, stand on your head and turn the laptop upside down. I'm not doing that out of mine. But if you're seeing the recording later, go ahead and do that too. But that's okay. Every time you look through a different telescope, you get a different view. So this is what we're going to go with tonight. And I believe we are on to our board that has to put up with this kind of shenanigans every single time. And of course, I'm on the wrong screen, so the clicker doesn't want to work. There we go. There's me. There is your Vice President, Secretary, Mr. Dave Falkner, and John Zimmich in the house. And then we have Matt, who I hope is online tonight.
Hello.
Hello, thank you. And then Amit's here in the house helping us out. And Conrad is not here yet. Or online, I don't know. Conrad could be working. He works a lot. So thank you everybody from the board for putting up with me and helping the Minnesota Astronomical Society and all its members out. Which brings me to next year. It is time for elections, and Amin, you can talk if you want, otherwise you don't have to. But I'm going to put a couple of people on the spot, so hold on. So Mr. John Zimmich, would you kindly step up here and tell everybody in front of the camera, I don't care. You have to do a couple of different jobs. So face the camera and tell everybody at home and here what the Vice President does for our membership.
Well, first off, the Vice President, it's kind of a nice position because there's no accountability because everything goes to the President. So we just kind of sit back.
Yes, you're welcome. So, no pressure job.
No, it is backing up the President when the President can't fulfill or is unable to fulfill any responsibilities or designates responsibilities. Things that I have oversight for all the time, Lunar Scope program, the financials of it. Anton does an excellent job of running it, so I don't really do much there except ask him questions. Do you want one of these, or do you want to do this or that? And then he comes to me with questions to present as far as purchasing and things like that. So Lunar Scope program donations. When people want to donate equipment, I handle that. I coordinate the pickups and then checking out the equipment and then dispersing it throughout the club or selling it. And we also often get people wanting to sell equipment. They may have inherited it from someone and that they're not, it's a spouse or a relative and they know nothing about it. I help them with that too. And you've seen some of my posts out there on the exchange forum for people in those situations, or if just it's not a member, but they'd like to sell it. So I help them with that as well. And then just as a board member, budgeting is primarily the focus and just that part of the team when it comes to that. And then, of course, ancillary duties like running the sound system. But
Exactly. So thank you. Now, a question for you. Are you interested in running again?
no, yes, I am.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
But it is open for nominations, so anybody else can put their hat into the ring as well.
Correct.
Yes. So, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. Thank you, John. And then we have the treasurer. So Matt, if you're online, I know it's kind of self-statement, but what else do you do, Matt?
Well, hello there. Well, as the treasurer, I guess the primary responsibility is taking care of QuickBooks and making sure we get all the banking deposits and writing of checks and reimbursements to people who have purchased things for the club. We take care of a lot of that kind of thing. There's a few other things like the biggest thing, I suppose, is preparing, organizing the budget for each year so that it's able to be reviewed by the board and approved in January. I believe it's we have to have everything in by the end of January and then approved at the February meeting, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Taxes, I don't really have to do a ton for taxes. It usually just means dumping files over to the tax preparer. So that is why Trina is wondering why I haven't gotten it done yet. But anyway.
Yep, that's okay. We've had our talk.
Let's see. I really think it's a fascinating job because I really get to know what's going on in the club. It really is sort of a hands on everything that's going on. And I am willing to run again. I like the position. I like working with the board. And if anybody has an interest, and especially if they have a passion for bookkeeping, that would probably be a good job for them. But so I would welcome somebody to also run, but at this point I'm thinking I will.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Matt. Appreciate that. And if anybody has any questions about any of these positions, feel free to email the board and we can answer them for you. I don't know if Conrad is on tonight. Okay, if not, Ahmed, will you talk about being board member at large? Please.
So the board member at large, does it work? Okay, perfect. Okay, so yeah, the board member at large from responsibility. I'll sponsor the camera. But pretty much the responsibility comes down to they're there to support the board. The board initiates projects based on what is needed, and then they would assign it to the board member at large, and they need to go and PM that project to the finish line and report regularly. So they'd be organizing, temporary teams to go and execute on a specific task. I'll give an example. Earlier this year, we didn't have a reservation calendar for our different sites. I got with Vaults and I got with different people, collected feedback, and then we started working, and actually Vaults did most of the work. I was mainly just a guy with the people skills. If people, for people who like office space over here, but I just coordinated what needed to happen, bring in the feedback, coordinate the reviews and all that stuff, and then the implementation. And where are we getting feedback?
I don't know.
So yeah.
No, mine's off, so we're good. So.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So it's Matt's. Okay, continue.
So yeah, you're effectively assigned projects from the board and you take care of them. And for example, right now, the new project I got assigned is running the elections for this year. So pretty much it's unlike where the vice president has specific responsibilities or the treasurer that has specific responsibilities. The board member at large is there to support the board.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. Great. Okay, and then I will put you on the spot for the rest of this too.
Good.
Okay. If you're willing.
Okay.
Otherwise, I can do it.
Now,
This is how this goes.
thank you, Trina. So pretty much, as the slide says, we're going to be having elections soon for the board, and per the Constitution, half of the board is elected every year. So for this year, the vice president, the treasurer, and the board member at large two are up. In this case, we know John and Matt, both their positions are up, and they're both going to be running again. Conrad Sanders, who is the board member at large, his position is up. And my understanding for this communication to the board, he's not going to be running again.
Correct.
So we need candidates.
It's the Minnesota Astro, the second Minnesota Astro is echoing.
Mm. Yep, exactly. So me? Oh,
Should I step away from the computer?
I am muted.
I might want to mute the microphone also.
Maybe it's this one.
There
Okay,
you go.
that. Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Too many screens with too many different mute buttons.
So we need candidates, not candidate. For the Constitution, yes, they're running again, but anybody can decide to go and run for any of those positions. And pretty much who can, run for elections, pretty much they're a member in good standing. And my understanding right now, we don't have any members that are not in good standing. So, any member who is a member in good standing within the club can decide to go for it. What they need to do is that they will need to email me their nomination on board member 1@mnastro.org, because I will need to actually follow the procedure that is needed to actually communicate that to the club members, whether it's putting it, passing it on to Dave, so it goes on the happenings, it goes on the forum, it goes on Slack, goes out in communications, following the Constitution, making it following our bylaws and Constitution, to make sure that it's communicated to the club members who's running and for what position. Now, that's for people who want to run. And please send me your nomination by the next meeting at November 2nd at 9 p.m. So at the end of the meeting, that's the end of it. No more nominations after that, because we need to send out the communication to everybody, and per the Constitution, that needs to happen with at least a minimum of 30 days window from the day of the elections, which is scheduled for December 7th at the meeting, and we're going to have it fairly at the very beginning. Now, to vote, first thing is being a member in good standing, right? And then the second thing, shall not have any financial obligation towards the society. So if your membership is due and you forgot to renew it for a couple months or so, you need to renew it in order to vote. Fair enough. We have a grace period when it comes, the Constitution has grace period when it comes to termination of benefits, but that doesn't apply to voting. You need to actually continue paying your membership. And if it's due, Steve is going to be helping me here with the elections and registrations. If you're overdue and you show up for elections, he's going to have a mini list. Just be prepared. If you want to vote, you'll need to pay your dues in order to vote. Voting will be in person here, and for people online, we'll have registration. It's not going to be open anybody to jump in and vote. No, they need to register, and they need to register with the email address that they use to communicate with Steve for their membership and their club benefits. They can't just use any Donald Duck email. If their email is Donald Duck and that's the one with Steve, then good, right? But if your email is Donald Duck and that's your formal email, all power to you. Yeah. Yeah, but pretty much you got it, because we have from the state standpoint, we have the obligation that we need to actually trace who voted, making sure that they're actual members, and it's not just, oh yeah, people showed up and they vote and we can't actually trace them to actual members. We need to be able to do that. And voting by proxy is not permitted. If you can't show up in either one of those ways to vote, you cannot tell somebody to log in or show up instead of you and vote instead of you. So you got to be there to vote. And then each membership is entitled to one vote. I'll use myself as an example. The membership is in my name and my wife's name, but it's a household membership like everybody, right? You get one membership for the household. That means it's one vote. It can't be me voting and then my wife voting. It has to be only one vote per household. And those are pretty much the rules around it. Now, given that per the bylaws, we need to have a quorum. So we need to make sure people show up in the December meeting. We need at least 10% of the club members between online and in person for the vote to be conducted. Otherwise, the elections will need to be rescheduled if we don't have a quorum. So on that day, Trina will start the meeting. We'll monitor who's online, how many people are there. And the moment we establish quorum, we'll actually distribute ballots, all that stuff, and get the process started. And right now, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, we have about 700 plus members. 699. So the quorum is going to be about 70 people, right?
Yes.
So 70 people is the minimum requirement of participants in the elections. And pretty much that day, if you show up and you plan to vote, you'll get a ballot, and we'll need to make sure that for every ballot handed out, one ballot needs to be collected and we have proper custody of it. Don't worry about the process. Just make sure that you show up to vote. If you're interested in nominating yourself, make sure that you send me your email, your nomination details by November 2nd, 9 p.m. Sounds good? Go ahead, Clayton. No voting by email. No. It will be, there will be a Zoom. Yes, there will be a Zoom link, and for those online, they'll be asked to register, and they need to use the email that they use for their membership benefits with Steve. I beg your pardon? Yes, that's how electronic voting will be.
Yeah, because it'll be like a voting poll, and then you'll hit who you want to for each section, which goes to us as the main source of that particular poll. So
Yeah.
it's public. So otherwise they have like publishers and anything, but
Yeah. Donald Duck. Yeah, if he sends in his nomination and he signed, he pays Steve the $40 or $100 to be a patron, then he can run. Okay. Other questions?
Is that email gonna be on the website anywhere other than YouTube?
Actually, how about that? I'll email Dave and Dave can send it out in the happenings for nominations. Email this email. Fair enough? Because we don't, my understanding is because of emails getting spammed, we try to limit the number of emails we put on the website. Because every time we post an email to the website, it gets spammed with 1 billion emails. So we'll send out a communication. It's pretty much, boardmember1@mnastra.org.
You guys kind of do this every single year, Mike? Oh. It's okay, thank you. We do this every year, and I know it's for newer people that it's going to be fairly new, but it's usually the board member 1 or board member 2 that is getting and doing all of this work for the other half of the board. So like next year, it'll be board member 2 doing all of this. If in doubt, just send it to mas-board@mnastra.org, and we will get it to the correct place. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's another way. Yeah, and it will make it to me. And in general, what you send in with your nomination, pretty much a short bio, okay, first thing, like, it'd be nice to have a picture, but also, why do you want to be elected for this position? What can you bring to the table? All that stuff. Like, talk to people and try to convince them why they should vote for you.
Just to alleviate the concern about remembering board member 1@mnastra.org, remember on the About Us leadership page, if you go down to the bottom, there's that web form to contact you guys. And it's a pull down menu for board member 1 at large, or board member 1.
Yeah.
mnastra. So just use that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I forgot about that. So, okay.
I don't go on it. I know pretty much everybody's email address.
Any other questions about elections?
Yep.
Anybody online?
I don't know.
One quick thing about the December meeting. Sure.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Ahmed. Appreciate that. Which kind of leads me into a short little blurb for all of our site leaders that are out there and budgets coming up. Start gathering your information because we're going to need it by the end of the year. So that way we as the board can start working on everything in January. We usually have 2 meetings to determine all of the budgets for all of the different sites, and sometimes there's stragglers and stuff. So just be aware of that and help things get a little bit smoother for next year. Pretty please? I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Then on to my favorite part, welcoming all of our new members. We have, I believe I got here 19 new members and 2 people coming back. Are there any new members in person tonight here in the room? Oh, darn, there's not. What a Clayton. Yes, Clayton, you're a brand new member every single time you come to a meeting. Okay, thank you for showing and attending. What about online? Do we have anybody that's online that's new? If you are there, drop a little hello or a chat or a high five in the chat there, and we'll say welcome, welcome, welcome. So appreciate everybody who has joined us over the last 7 months, 8 months. We're in October, so 10 months. So thank you. Every one of you count, and we are glad that you are joining us on this wonderful hobby. And then I have almost, Anton. I have next month, or the rest of October, sorry. We have a couple of interesting things here. So let me see. We've got, I don't know, an annular solar eclipse that's happening, which I know a lot of people are going to or wishing that they are going to, but it'll provide a few good presentations when you all get back, I hope. Hint, hint, hint. Then we have the Orionid meteor shower. So I'm hoping some astrophotographers are out there that is going to have some streaking pictures here next few months. And then, of course, the partial lunar eclipse. That was a surprise to me, but because I didn't know about that, but I don't know where that's at. So if anybody knows, give us a heads up of where the partial lunar is going to be the best seen event at. Nope. No one? Nowhere? Okay.
Partial lunar eclipses are dumb.
They're not dumb. Well, I still get to see the moon change a little bit of color, right? No? Okay. Well, I thought it was cool to put it on here. So in that case, Justin. Cool.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. All right, cool. Okay. Well, thank you, Ron. I appreciate that. So in the meantime, enjoy the full moon on the same night. There you go. And then, of course, we're back here on November 2nd. Ooh, November just, oh, well, it's Thanksgiving month. It's okay. But that brings me to Antone and the Lonerscope program. So he gets to come up here and talk about that. There you go.
The same news as always. We have 18 instruments. We have Newtonians, Schmit Cassegrains, refractors, a solar scope, and binoculars. And this past month, business has really picked up. Of our 18 instruments, 17 are out on loan right now.
Yay!
Yeah, we have we're up to 74 loans so far this year. So we have a few more to go to match last year, but still 74 has been a pretty busy year. Members who wish to borrow a telescope, go online under membership and the Lonerscope program. There's a form to fill out. You make your selection. And even though I've just said there's only one telescope immediately available, go ahead and make your reservation because they're coming and going all the time. And I'll just put you on the list and let you know when it's available. Members can hold them for 1 month. And if there's no, if traffic is down, there's not a lot of demand, a 1 extra month is allowed. And now that we're getting into colder weather, for those of you who are brave enough to go out there in the winter weather, there's probably a chance you could get 2 months out of one. We also have short courses, or the great courses. Yes, the DVDs. I think we have 18 different of those as well. And then all things astronomy. I just loaned one out tonight on radio telescopes. And so there are still 17 more out that I have in my house. So if you want to learn more about astronomy of any kind, just make a request for those. Same website.
Awesome. Thank you, Antone. Appreciate that. Appreciate you doing and taking care of that program so wonderfully. Which anybody can borrow it, and that's a member, and go out to any one of our public star party nights too and bring it and show it off. So we have a couple of them here. ELO has, of course, two, which I think is getting close to the end of their season, correct? And then we ELO has a special solar eclipse event on the 14th. I believe this weekend is the Dark Sky Globe at Night with Mark hosting that event out there as well. So head on out there. We got the Bay Sig on the 21st, and Cedar Creek has a public star party on the 21st as well. So it's a little bit overlapping. And then we also have, I think I have that right, on the 14th, 15th, the mini Messier Marathon.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Good.
So I'm thinking I got the right one. So that kind of snuck up on us. So stay tuned for the forums for that particular event. Yes. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. My apologies. Yeah, don't go out there at 1 o'clock. I think it was leftover from the fall astronomy day. So yes, this is what happens when I do it at 9 o'clock at night. Don't do that, people. my skills diminish. And then this is the last month for Long Lake Conservation Center to go up there and take care of, reserving a room and having some nice dark skies. So, and then it'll be closed for the rest of the season unless you can convince Ken to let you go up there on your own. So good luck with that. Then the eclipse countdown, 14 days? No, 9 days. Sorry, 9 days. And then 186 days to April's total solar eclipse. So yay. And then of course, Chris is not here tonight, so there's no badge request, but that's okay. You can still send him an email about that. The Globe at Night I'll get to in just a minute, and the newsletter that the North Central Region Astronomical League puts out is their I think it's like quarterly. Yeah, something like that. So go check that one out. It's a pretty good read. So, and then we have the Globe at Night that Mark is not here because he's over at the Bakken Center. So let me read this for you. Just pretend that I am Mark. No, please don't. Yes. Yeah. So Globe at Night is an opportunity for MAS members, all of you, plus hopefully any public people, to do some citizen science. It is an international citizen science program to measure night sky brightness by asking participants to a simple question. How many stars can you see? Right above you or in the Cygnus and Pegasus region. During and around the new moon in October. And a few days before and after having been designated as observing campaign lasting about 10 days. During these days, participants are asked to submit observations from their local regions, regardless of where they are at, either and by going onto the app and looking at the app saying, yep, I can see how many stars. It gives you a little picture to match it to, and you pick that one, hit submit, there you go. And it's also if you have an SQM, sky quality meter, yep, you can put that in there too. So that way it gives some reportings as to what's around you, and it gives them some good data to start going through to help preserve our night sky. So they have designated that Starry Skies North has designated October as Save the Night Sky month. So they're asking for everybody to go out between October 4th tonight and October 13th and do your best to participate. And 4th was yesterday. And submit your what you can see. So do that. I don't know if we'll ever get any data off of that, but maybe you can start bugging Mark and maybe he can, get some information. So there you go. Hopefully, Mark, I hope you did you proud, even as you're watching this meeting. To turn it over. Astronomical League Awards. I wish Jerry was here to help present these tonight, but I do have two that I can hand out. And we're going to go with the first one. You can get a high five. Come up here so I can give you a high five, Claire. So she completed Lunar 1. So everybody, a round of applause. Woo! All right. Do you want to talk to us about what Lunar 1 consisted of? Come on up here. Come on. Yes. People at home, you get to be on camera.
Oh, geez. Okay. This one I enjoyed because I live in Midway in St. Paul. The skies are terrible, and it was over the winter, and it gave me something to do. So I would just pull my telescope out of the garage on a winter night and look at stuff on the moon. You do some naked eye, some binoculars, and some with a telescope, and you check out lots of different features on the moon. So it was pretty fun.
Excellent. Woohoo. I'll give you another high five because it took a while. So yeah, clap, 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 clap. And Claire didn't bring her certificate, but John did. So John Popley, would you like to come up here so I can present you with your certificate for achieving the Southern Skies Binocular Program, which includes a beautiful certificate and a little red pen. So there we go. There you are. There you are. Yay. And now you get to tell us all about that. I know it's already on and the camera's over there.
Over the summer or winter, I had a chance to go down to South Africa. Was there for a month, and threw in a pair of binoculars for the trip. The program itself was pretty straightforward. It's just star hopping with binoculars, pulling out star charts and looking at completely unfamiliar constellations and bouncing around and finding some objects. But making sense of the sky in South Africa, was a trip. I did not. So yeah, the sun would rise in the east. That was all good. And then it would move north, and it would be due north at noon. And then after sunset, Venus was an evening star, and it was clear, bright to the right of the glow of sunset. And I was there for a month. I never got used to that. Had me completely turned around. But the southern skies are just fantastic. I unfortunately, since I was there in July in the winter, the Mid-Atlantic clouds were not good viewing for them. But I did get up at about 5 in the morning a couple of times. So I wasn't going to miss them while I was down there. And I'd completely forgotten about Toucan 47, which is just by the small Magellanic Cloud, and a huge globular cluster like Omega Centauri. Absolutely spectacular. And there's another Caldwell 85 is a little star cluster that looks like a little butterfly. And when I found it, I was like, I kind of exclaimed. I had my binocular set on a tripod. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And my host came over and looked through it. He said, oh, you found the butterfly cluster, which is a name I've never seen in any literature. But it's like, that's just like, but that's what it is, a little butterfly. So if the project says that it was designed to just be done in a few nights if needed, because they recognize people might be done, which I thought was just ridiculous. You could probably plow through it in a couple nights, just kind of bouncing object and take quick notes. But I spent 2 weeks of observing an hour or two every night to really soak it in. So do definitely throw in a pair of binoculars if your travels are ever taking you south of the equator.
Cool. Excellent. Congratulations again.
Yeah,
Yay.
thank you.
All right. And like Jerry says, yeah, that's fine. What?
It's a pair of 8x42s. Yeah, so just like birding binoculars. They were great.
Oh, it doesn't take much. What number? What number of certificates?
110.
Excellent. And as Jerry says, get out there and observe, although it's getting a little colder for that, but that's okay. Maybe you guys like that, being snowbirds and stuff. Gemini, hopefully everybody has gotten, and I'm hoping to see more influx for Father Brown for all the eclipses that are going on, the meteor showers, everything. He always needs articles. If you think it's anything small, anything big, please send it to him. He loves seeing them, reading them, and so does everybody else. So, hop on that bandwagon, people, please. And then the happenings, send it over to Mr. Dave Falkner and we'll get it published. And keep an eye out for the next few because of the board information and the budget stuff in the next 1 to 5 months is going to be very, very member interactive. So we needed each of you to attend and give us some decisions and along that line. And now on to not me talking. So I'm going to turn this over to Alon to do his little presentation for me of not necessarily better know a constellation, but it's going to be about the planets. So thank you, Alon.
I'll use this.
You're going to use that?
And
Okay.
you can hang on to that.
Okay. Do you want the clicker?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And I
forward,
will mute
back,
myself.
forward and back.
Yes.
Yeah.
The one that's forward is the one that you can't see
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's used so much.
So, how do astronomers organize a party? They plan it. All right. So, and a nod to Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny. It's planet season. And somebody else will say, it's bright nebula season. It's dwarf planet season. Anyway, yeah. So I'm going to talk about the planets that are visible this fall. I'm not going to take too long about it. Most of you already know more about the planets than I'll ever be able to communicate. So I'm really going to talk about what's observable right now and maybe an observing challenge. So as you can see, the planets are all lined up like they always are along the ecliptic. So Pluto is the furthest west right now. So this is 9:56 p.m. tonight is this particular slide that I did. And Pluto's there furthest to the west in Sagittarius. Saturn is next. Neptune. Eris is down there between Pisces and Cetus. Jupiter and Uranus is off to the furthest east. So you can catch a lot of planets or dwarf planets tonight. I'm going to start with Eris and kind of issue a challenge to folks. So Eris is magnitude 18.6. So you're not going to go see it with your eyes. So this one's really for imagers who want to go and, waste some photons trying to capture Eris a couple of nights in a row. So it's in Cetus. It rises about 8 o'clock. Transits about 0200. It's still visible at morning, as morning twilight brightens the sky, so you can't see it anymore. Opposition is in about 2 weeks. It's going to be lost in the evening twilight by the end of February, by mid-February. So what you want to do with this one, it's going to move at something less than 1 arc minute per day. So you want to go here, and there's Eris kind of in the middle there. And if I hit this, that's where it hops back and forth. So that's the motion you're trying to catch with an imager if you're doing 1 day apart. So I've never imaged Eris. I don't know very many people who have spent the time doing catching photons to image Eris, and it may not be worth it, but I'm going to give it a try and see if I can make it happen. Okay, you've done that?
Actually, I didn't even know we could do here because it's pretty far south.
Yeah, it's pretty far south. But right now is a good time because it's close to opposition, so it's as high as it's going to get. Yeah, cool. That's really cool that you've done that. That's neat. Okay. So 100 millimeter refractor, little dot of light moves back and forth. What type of exposure did you use?
4 days apart.
4 days apart, 3-minute exposures. All right, in a 100 millimeter refractor. Pretty cool. All right. So he's imaged Maki Maki, and what was the other one? Haumea. All right, cool. So Pluto is the other dwarf planet. You know, it got demoted back in 2006. You can catch this one visually if you really try hard, but it's another one that's going to hop around and, you know, go back and forth, and you really just see a pinpoint of light, and you got to go back the next night or a couple of nights later to catch the movement to actually identify it as Pluto. So I visually picked it up a number of years ago. I haven't, frankly, wasted much time looking for it since, but it's a fun project to go look at if you've never detected Pluto. So it's basically visible as soon as it gets dark, and in early December, it's going to get lost in the evening astronomical twilight. So we basically already missed our opportunity to see Pluto this year, unless you're really pronto catching it right after astronomical twilight in the next few weeks or month at the most. Neptune is next coming inward. Neptune's magnitude 7.8, so it's a great thing to pick up in a telescope visually. You could also maybe image it. You'd have to have pretty good image scale to catch anything with it. 2.4 arc seconds in diameter. Visible starting right after evening twilight. Transits about midnight. You've got until late January, early February before it disappears into the evening twilight. Neptune shows a real mild bluish tint to it. You can pick up the moon Triton with it. That's magnitude 13.6. And I was actually able to pick it up from a star party at my work last week with 81 millimeter refractor and pretty high magnification. This was the first planet discovered mathematically, is the little key that's different about it. John Couch Adams and Frenchman Leverrier computed it almost simultaneously, and then astronomers went and used their computations to go find it, and they were within about a degree of the right position. Uranus, magnitude 5.7, starts about 45 minutes after twilight ends. You've got until early April to go look at this one. It's in Aries. Opposition is roughly the middle of November. Titania is the largest moon, which you can pick up. There's 4 other moons you could also maybe pick up. They're between magnitudes 14 and 16. So, you know, they're challenging, but you might be able to do it. And go look at it, you know, now through January, really to have your best chance. And, you know, pull up your planetarium program of choice and go look at, you know, find out where it is and where the moons are so you can have a hope of identifying them. So, and they're going to move around. So you got to do it for the night you're actually looking. And that's why I didn't put it in here, because you'll look it up in your planetarium program anyway. Saturn is, you know, the jewel of the autumn sky with the rings. It's just fantastic. Magnitude 0.6, visible naked eye, but you can't see the rings unless you have an aid. Transit's about 2230 right now. Visible again until around the end of January, when it starts to disappear in the evening twilight. So you got a few months to go. Opposition was last month, about a month ago. The rings are going to approach edge on in March of 2025. So actual edge on is when Saturn's going to be aligned with the sun. So we're not really going to get to see it, but we'll get to see it before and after. So the tilt of the rings is getting shallower and shallower now, and now is a really good time to go out and look at Saturn before it gets lower in the sky and more muddy in the atmosphere. Saturn's moon's just a plot of all these different moons you can pick up with Saturn. So again, this is one of those things, whatever night you're out observing Saturn, pull out your planetarium program and go show where these moons are and see if you can go identify them. It's a really fun thing to look at in addition to the rings themselves. Jupiter, of course, you know, the king of planets, magnitude minus 2.8, 48 arc seconds in diameter, rises about 8 o'clock, roughly a half hour after evening twilight. Transit's about 3 in the morning right now. So you can actually kind of go after these in sequence if you're going to try and do them all in one night. You could do that. Aries, it's in Aries, so it's pretty high up. Opposition is in another month. As this meeting ends tonight, there's a shadow transit of Io happening. So if we all ran out and took our telescopes out and could see through the clouds and the rain, we could maybe watch a shadow transit of Io. And then on October 20th, there's a telescope in the corner was the comment. On October 20th, between around 1 in the morning and 2:40 in the morning, there's a double shadow transit with Io or Io and Ganymede. So you can watch two shadows going across Jupiter simultaneously the morning of the 20th. And Trina, you didn't have that on your calendar of astronomical events. So but basically view Jupiter now through the end of February, but now is when it's like highest in the sky. You get a good look at it. And then the rest of the planets, these are, other than Mars, these are the inferior planets because they're inside the orbit of Earth. So Mars is buried in sun glow for for a while. Earth, we can always go see Earth where, go outside and we can look down. Venus is a morning apparition. It rises about 0330, magnitude minus 4.7 to minus 4.4 as the month wears on. So it's getting dimmer as the month wears on. It changes from a thick crescent to half illuminated, but it gets getting further away and smaller, and visible until late January. And then this year it spends a lot of time next to the sun, and it exits at a very shallow angle. So we really don't get much of a look at it in the morning for several months, or in the evening for several months. Sorry, backwards. And Mercury is descending into twilight to meet the sun right now, and also has a very shallow entrance into the evening sky. And you'll be able to see it again in early, maybe mid-December. So once again, it's planet season. It's rabbit season. It's planet season. Yeah. So I flipped Saturn for this one. So, it's a really good time to go look at planets right now. And the moons are interesting. Shadow transits are interesting. And just trying to pick up some of these fainter outer dwarf planets could be fun. It could be very frustrating, but maybe interesting. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Alan. I appreciate that. All right. Just a preface before our main speaker, is it? Speakers. Okay, sorry, pluralized. Take over. Next month we have Professor Larry Lawrence Rudnick coming to us. I don't know the topic, so I just put cool stuff because it's usually pretty cool stuff that he talks about. And of course, in person and online, it will happen, forever in time until the MAS dies. So we're going to be in both places. And I'm going to turn it over to our speakers and hopefully. I don't know. I said I'd be nice. Let me stop sharing. And we're going to have peoples that are not astrophotographers talking about astrophotography. All right. Ron's going to talk first. All right. Perfect. Okay. What do you need me to do?
So the people at home don't start complaining.
That's debatable.
No, I've been listening. I've been listening online while you guys are doing this. Mark has just been torching you. No, he's online. He's on the thing. He's doing the deal. No, I'm on. Yeah, see the big screen? Going over there. Just watch the bobber. All right. Good evening, everybody. Hey, my name is Ron Schmit. I'm a JPL Solar System ambassador. Got selected back in 2000. The ambassadors there are about 900 of us from throughout the U.S. tag teaming tonight We're selected from JPL, the Jet Propulsion Labs, nestled in the posh, lavish hills of Pasadena, California. They are the part of NASA that's in charge with the robotic exploration of the solar system. It's bots, not boots. Sorry, astronauts. We get to meet with the scientists, the engineers, and the technicians. They tell us about their missions, and then we get to turn around and tell you fine people. So before we get started with Eclipse Talk tonight, well, actually, in lieu of Eclipse Talk, we had all sorts of stuff planned for tonight. And then last month's meeting, all of a sudden, some guy comes sliding in with a 20-minute presentation on everything we were going to cover. So to avoid a dumb summer rerun, like you've been watching during the writer's strike, I'm going to throw in a little update on the asteroid autumn. Come on. There it is. No, the moon's not an asteroid. The moon's our little buddy. Oh, by the way, the eclipse thing, they were asking what I saw online. I said partial eclipses of the moon are dumb. The eclipse we have on the 28th of October, we don't get to see it here. The line ends at the Great Lakes, and it's almost totally penumbral, and you can't see a penumbral eclipse. Okay, smart guy. I know. Oh, I can detect it with my supervision. Okay, fine. Yeah, you tell the public to go out there, and they get completely just dusted by it. Don't send them out to see things that don't, yeah, because then they'll quit on you. Matt's got a great story of his future wife getting to see Hallie's comment, and she's like, "You mean that little fuzzy patch?" And yet it worked out. Congratulations, Matt. Say the moon, that gray color, that is basalt, a common ordinary volcanic rock. The moon is made of the same thing that the Earth is made of. You know what? Mercury is made out of that same stuff. That's why Mercury looks like Mercury and looks like the moon. In fact, Venus, if you blow away all the clouds, it also looks that way. It's made of the same stuff the Earth is. Oh, wait. Earth looks different, you say. Yes, indeed it does. Because Earth has this. Soil. Earth has life. Decomposed organic material covering up the top layer, providing us soil. Water adds to that puzzlement of changing the color of our planet. But deep down underneath the clay and the alluvium and all that, we get to bedrock. Yes, that bedrock, Mr. Minecraft. I know you just got excited. That's the basalt. So all four of the inner planets, minor or otherwise, do include basalt, including Mars. Oh, wait, Mars is orange. Yes, but under that crispy, crusty orange, you put a drill underneath that and there's the basalt waiting right underneath the surface. See, Mars got wet. In fact, Mars may have looked a lot like this about 4 billion years ago. It had a thicker atmosphere. It had water on the surface. In fact, the entire northern hemisphere was covered with an ocean. We have evidence of this. We've gone to find out. We've dug around on Mars and we found there was lots of water here. It's pretty impressive. But still, underneath basalt. Basalt makes up a big chunk of our solar system, especially the hard, rocky, crusty stuff. When we look at the Earth, it's way down underneath. And in fact, if we want to find out what the ancient Earth was like, we miss out a little bit. Because all of these atmospheres and waters and plate tectonics and volcanism and sedimentation and erosion, all of that has changed the Earth. It's recycled the surface over and over again. In fact, about the oldest rocks you can find on the Earth are the Jack Hills of Western Australia and up in the Greenbelt on the east shore of Hudson Bay. 4.3 billion and 4.2 billion years old, respectively. Otherwise, it's all newer. It's all been undone, redone, overdone. The surface has always been changing. So to find the ancient Earth, to find out what ancient Earth is like, we have to go to outer space. Places that haven't changed for 4.6 billion years, back when the solar system first formed, and that's the asteroids. And right now, we're talking asteroids because it's asteroid autumn. And you thought it was just pumpkin spice. No. Going to these asteroids gives us a glimpse at what the early solar system was like. It's a time capsule. It hasn't changed since our solar system first formed. Now, some have changed. Some have slammed into each other. Yes, yes, indeed. And yet most of the material out there is still left over from the early solar system. There's where all the asteroids are. What was the number on that? 1.3 million known asteroids, more than 3,800 comets. Comets also left over from the early solar system. A lot more water on those and a lot farther out. So besides comet autumn doesn't make any sense. So we'll stick with asteroid autumn. You can see the distribution there with the planets. That's Jupiter right there, a big chunk of asteroids hanging to either side of Jupiter there, the Jupiter, that dot on the left side. You see that group of green on one side and the other. Those are the Trojans. Those asteroids settled in when the solar system was young. There you can see the inner belt, which is less than 2.5 astronomical units from the sun. We see the families of asteroids. These are asteroids that have the same general chemical composition. Now you can see the families separated down on the bottom screen, specifically with the different colors, like Vesta is all that optic green color. All of the asteroids marked there are of the Vesta family. You include everybody, it gets a little more messy like you see on the top. The mid-belt goes anywhere from 2.5 to 2.82 astronomical units. And that's really busy, but you can see how it clears up some of the families on the bottom there, including Juno, Flora, Mariah. Those are the big families in the mid-belt. And then the outer belt, which goes beyond 2.82 astronomical units. And again, it's the wild, wild west and the image on the top, but on the bottom, they've isolated just the families like Veritas and Rosilia and Hygeia and Themis. So studying these asteroids gives us a glimpse into the early solar system and thus the early Earth, because the records on Earth are gone. We don't have them. They're oddly shaped rocks, randomly shaped depending on what they cooled off at. By the way, an asteroid is an object that circles the sun. Now, if you talk to a planetary geologist, they don't bother with that whole 2006 dwarf planet thing. They're like pish posh, everything's a planet. I'm talking out of school, so, don't attack me on that one, but they're pretty wild and loose with the planet definition. So if you want to be that guy and get on me for that, okay. But asteroids, they're not round. One of the stipulations for planets and dwarf planets is they have to be a sphere, spherically oriented. I don't know how Maya got in there. It's a football. We move on. But it has to be hydrostatically round. So as it was cooling, it took a round spherical shape. And if you've got that, then you become a candidate for a dwarf planet, which is why the big asteroid series, a couple slides from now, has made dwarf planet status. 1, it's in orbit around the sun. 2, it's hydrostatically round. But to be a planet, you have to have your neighborhood cleared out. Sorry, Pluto, somehow they threw that one in there. It's a stupid definition. No one likes it. Talk to Alan Stern. Yes, David, over there. More wonders of technology. Dad, did you sign the papers for the farm? What?
So, if according to the definition, then why isn't Jupiter a dwarf planet? Because it has all those Trojan asteroids. It hasn't cleared out its entire orbit. Just asking.
Well, I'll refer to my previous comment about it's a dumb definition. Oh, by the way, Alan Stern will remind you, I think he's calling in now. We don't vote on scientific principles. It's not a democracy. So that's not the way you categorize that stuff. Yes, you there. Yes, go ahead and answer Dave's question quickly. Okay, they say that Jupiter's the dominant object. That's why Jupiter gets to be planet status and Pluto's not. I think Neil deGrasse Tyson just doesn't like Pluto. I don't know if you've seen him do his spiel, but not a planet anymore. Get over it. I love science educators that do that. Look at that. We're tying it right in there. I think it was actually the Hayden Planetarium that tossed everything into chaos, but okay, we'll go with that, Alan. That's a much more democratic Much more diplomatic answer. So these asteroids have got all sorts of shapes, depending on whatever they solidified at. You can see they've been hit too. Lots of impacts in the asteroids. It changes their interior organization as well. Some asteroids are even differentiated. There's Ceres. That's actually a shot from the Hubble of Ceres. That's how big it is compared to Vesta. And Ceres was round enough, they gave it dwarf planet status. So, there are 4 missions that have highlights during autumn here, which is why we call it asteroid autumn. First, the DART mission. DART is just celebrating 1 year since its anniversary when it ran into Didymos. And it did change the orbit a little bit. So this was our first opportunity to try a kinetic impact of an asteroid to see if we could change its direction. And sure enough, we did. They used a double asteroid, so they didn't just hit one and knock it off into space, so it would come back and get us because Bruce Willis is retired. What would we do? Instead, all they did was change the orbit of a small moon. Don't unpack that definition. A small moon around a larger asteroid. And just by changing that orbit was enough for them to indicate, yes, indeed, we can do this. Lucy is about to encounter its first asteroid, Dinkinesh. It's going to come about 280 miles above it on November 1st. It's not, that actually wasn't in the original flight plan, but as they got closer to their, like a little nudge of the rockets, and now we're making our first encounter. So it's going to be a practice run. Lucy, if you don't know, is going to explore the Trojans around Jupiter. It's going to go to one side of the Trojans, visit a couple asteroids there, and then it's going to come back around Earth and pitch over to the other side of Jupiter's orbit and check out the Trojans there. They called it Lucy in deference to the fossil Lucy. Looking back in time, looking at the early days, that's what we hope to do with those asteroids. OSIRIS-REx, I don't know if you're watching TV last week, but it was awesome. Came back from Bennu. It had a lot more sample than they could ever hope for. Now, it's only about the size of a baseball, but it's a lot. In fact, they're keeping like 80% of it under wraps. They're taking 20% of it, they're dividing it up and they're sending it around the world to everybody. But they want to keep some pristine in case they come up with new ways of analyzing that soil, then they won't contaminate in the meantime. You know, they did that with Apollo stuff too. They've got Apollo stuff that they haven't examined yet. They're just keeping it in the can, you know? Always with the aliens, Dean. OSIRIS-REx, the spacecraft dropped off the capsule with the material in it, and it's been retasked. It's now OSIRIS-APEX. It's heading out to Apophis, an asteroid that's a near-Earth asteroid, and it's going to rendezvous with it and fly with it and get a little bit of idea. You know, one thing we've learned, especially with Bennu, the asteroid it went to visit, is it was a rubble pile. We thought it was going to be a hard sock into the surface and we hoped to get something. When that tag SAM hit, it went a meter into the ground and stuff just came flying out of it. We had never seen something like that before. So we are reevaluating our understanding of asteroids thanks to OSIRIS-REx. And finally, Psyche launches on October 12th, 9:16 in the morning, Central Daylight Time. It's going to launch on a Falcon Heavy. Psyche is headed to the asteroid Psyche. However, did they come up with these names? Psyche is an asteroid that seems to be super dense. It may be completely metal, an all metal asteroid. Now, some people have postulated, I think this was in Omni magazine 30 years ago or something, that they're going to tow it to Earth orbit and then use those metals to crush the world economy. Gold, that's worth nothing, pish posh. Do you have an NFT? No. So Psyche, the reason they're visiting Psyche is because they think that Psyche may be an exposed core to a planet. As planets form, they differentiate. The lighter stuff goes to the top, the heavy stuff goes to the bottom. And likely something slammed into whatever used to be Psyche, tore the top off of it, and all you've got left is the inner core. Because if you just take a jumble of material in the early solar system and let it have its way, you're not going to have something that's just all metal. So it was gathering together like everything else does, big enough to differentiate, and then the top got split off, and now you're looking at just the hard metal core underneath. And that's going to be launching October 12th in the morning. You can go check it out. David, you all set? I'm going to pitch it back to you, sir. So more details of Asteroid Autumn in your news, in your blogosphere, stuff like that. It's awesome stuff. A lot of asteroid stuff going on right now. And so the focus is taking a look at the early solar system and learning what we can learn about the early Earth from that. All right, I pitch it over to Mr. Dave Falkner. He is going to talk about photographing the upcoming eclipses.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
All right, take it away, Dave.
Thank you. Well, as Ron mentioned, we were rather alarmed, disturbed about last month because took away most of what we were talking about. So we had to kind of refocus what we were going to do. So I'm going to focus specifically on photographing the eclipse. Now, this is rather odd because anybody who knows me who knows that I am not an astrophotographer. It is not my main bailiwick. But it turns out that the sun and the moon are rather easy objects to photograph. Okay. In fact, I understand that somebody got an award for photographing the moon. So, thank you. And so, and I had actually photographed the sun, and I did to actually take images or pictures during the 2017 eclipse. So I'll have those in here. So I wouldn't consider myself the first string, the second string, or even the third string. I'm kind of the practice squad here. So bear with me. Okay. I'm going to talk about the keys to success, in my estimation, on photographing the eclipse. I'm going to talk about site location a little bit, not a great deal, but I'll talk about it a little bit. And then the equipment that you use, some settings, the settings that I used, for instance, and you can see the results that I got. And then I also, along the way, have some resources that you can refer to as you're going through this. Okay. So first of all, keys to successfully photographing the eclipse. All right. I think that the first thing, of course, is preparation. All of the things involved in preparation, your site location, your equipment, all of that. Think hard about it. What you're going to wear, different locations have different climates, right, and all that. So you all ought to do that. So preparation, very, very important. We'll talk a little bit about preparation today for the photography part of it. The second thing I think is really, really important is to practice what you're planning on doing when you get there with your photography equipment. Setting up your tripod, getting a good location, make sure you got a good angle toward the sun with your camera, and so on and so forth. The next thing I think you need to do is you need to practice, okay? Because it's 4.5 minutes, so you got to get set up, you got to be ready to go, you got to know exactly what you're going to do, if there's settings and things of that sort. And finally, I think the most important thing is that you practice, okay? Because I can tell you, with 4.5 minutes, you better know what you're doing, have everything set up, and be ready to go, or you're going to miss it, okay? Okay, so with that in mind, let's talk about preparation, okay? Lower the bar. The question was, what if you forget to practice? I think you need to lower the bar and your expectations on what you're going to get. Okay. All right. So preparation. Let's talk about location first. Okay. Now I'm not going to talk a lot about this, but the first thing is, if you're going to take an image of the annular eclipse or of the total eclipse, make sure you're in the path of the eclipse. Okay. I have heard people who said, yes, I saw the total eclipse, and they told me where they were, and I knew they were not in the path of the eclipse. So they did not see the total eclipse. They thought they did, but they didn't. And as we all know, a partial eclipse is nothing like a total eclipse. So make sure you're in the path of totality. The closer to the center line, the better. That's the longest amount of time. So for the annular eclipse coming up, I think it's 4 minutes and 47 seconds or something like that. So, but the farther away you are from the center line, the shorter that time is. So keep that in mind. You want to be as close to the center line as you can. Same with the total eclipse, which is about 4.5 minutes on April 8th. Okay. Secondly, I know that there's a lot of people who go to these sites that talk about the probability of clouds. on that particular day. Okay. And so they're all scooting south toward Texas and plus like that. I think that's a good idea, but remember that's historical information. And climate change has changed things. Okay. And I don't know that the historical information is as accurate as it has been. Okay. But by far, you need to do two things. Number one, check the weather like a day or two ahead of time on your location and see what it looks like. And secondly, have an escape plan, meaning you need to be able to go up and down the path of totality to get away from the clouds, should that be necessary. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Okay, I'm going to talk about 2017 eclipse a little bit because that's my experience. This was the location. I was in Casper, Wyoming at the Astronomical League convention there. And that was Saturday and Sunday. Monday was the eclipse. And so they gave the opportunity for those who wanted to go and photograph or look at the eclipse. They had this site reserved for us. Okay. And all you got to do is sign up, didn't cost you anything. And I thought, hey, this is great. You know, it's a nice site, kind of elevated area, good shot, all that. And I looked at it, and although there's lots of parking, there wasn't a whole lot of parking right next to the grass. Okay. And I kind of wanted to have a spot next to the grass. Okay. Because I could use the power off my car then to run my telescope. But I didn't really want to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go and reserve a parking spot next to the thing for a thing that doesn't start until like 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the morning. So what could I do? And my son was with me. So we thought, I'll tell you what, let's go to Home Depot and see if we can get something orange to put in there. Okay. So that's what we did. We went and we got an orange cone and we put it in the parking spot that we wanted next to the grass. Okay. Now, I personally thought this is never going to work. Somebody's going to come, they're going to see that, they're going to pitch it off the side, and that's it, right? But nevertheless, the next morning, we go up, we get up at a reasonable hour, we go to Starbucks, get some coffee, go to McDonald's, get some breakfast, and we get there about 9:30. I think things start about 10 o'clock, okay? And the place is packed. There are people everywhere. The parking lot, pretty full, a few spots left, not too many. I thought, yeah, this is going to be great. Let's go check our parking spot, son. Sure. Sure enough, there it was. It was there. All the parking spots were taken, except that one. So we moved the cone, and pulled in, had my spot just exactly where I wanted. Now, I'm not saying that's going to work for everyone at every single situation, but I have cones with me for the next eclipse. Okay, location. Equipment. If you're going to be taking pictures of the eclipse, I think personally that you need to think about safety first, right? Okay, you're going to be looking up at the sun a lot without your camera. Okay, make sure you have good solar glasses. Okay, there are two companies that make good solar glasses: Eclipse Glasses and Rainbow Symphony are the two ones that are probably the best. I'm not saying the other ones don't make good glasses, but those are the two that I happen to recommend. I got mine from Rainbow Symphony. Okay. Also, as I mentioned before, be aware of your surroundings. Where are you going to? Are you going to be watching this in northern Canada? Or are you going to be watching it down in Texas? You know, make sure you dress for the weather and so you're comfortable for the entire eclipse. And you can bring more glasses for other people. I know somebody said they bought like 200 glasses. I think it's great. You know, yeah, hand them out to people. You know, I bought extra. I bought like 25, but I'm not as generous as Rebecca is. So, and if you're going to be showing the eclipse to a number of people, the idea of projecting the eclipse through a pinpoint, something like that, great idea. I mean, a lot of people can watch it without having to look at the sun, saves their eyes too. Okay. All right. Photography equipment. Okay. I recommend a DSLR. Okay. For those of you who do not know what a DSLR looks like, it looks like this: digital single lens reflex camera. Okay. This is an older model, works pretty well. Okay. And this is the one that I used. Right. Can you use a smartphone? I think you probably can, and I'll talk about that. Okay. If you're going to use a DSLR, then you need to have a telephoto lens on it, you know, because the sun is a very small object out there. Half a degree is not very much. And you also need to have a solar filter even on your camera. And they sell solar filters for cameras. You can put right over it. Okay. so that you can use, and I would recommend probably, I'm going to guess 1,000mm or larger or longer lens to get enough of magnification on the sun to get a good decent image. Okay, if you so desire. Of course, the other thing you can do is you can attach your camera to your telescope. Okay, and the way you do that is through something called a T-ring. Okay, now T-ring replaces your lens. So you take off the lens and you put the T-ring on. They come in two sizes. The T-rings are designed to fit into your focuser. So you have an 1.5 inch and you have a 2-inch, right? Whichever works with your focuser, that's great. Okay. And so you just click it on and you put it on, and now you focus with the telescope, which brings me to the next problem. Not all telescopes are set up for photography. And so you need to check ahead of time. This is this practice thing and preparation. Check ahead of time by getting a solar filter, putting it on your telescope, putting the camera on there, and see if you can focus the sun. Because a lot of times, because the actual imaging part of your camera is way inside the body, and when you put a T-ring on there, that extends it. You may not be able to put your focuser in far enough to actually achieve focus. Newtonians are notorious for this. You can't use the camera on a Newtonian telescope. It just won't focus. So, make sure you check ahead of time what you need to do on that. Okay. What else we got here? Oh yeah, make sure it's a full aperture solar filter, right? This is a full aperture solar filter for a 10-inch telescope. They make them for all size telescopes. Okay. This happens to come from Thousand Oaks. It's a glass one. You can also get Mylar film type ones. I think Bader makes those to put on your telescopes, or you can make your own. Get some solar film and get some styrofoam and cut it out and make your own. It doesn't really matter. But a full aperture solar filter is what you need for your telescope. Okay. And okay. Next, if you're going to use a camera and you're just going to set it on a tripod, that's fine. It won't track. So be mindful of that, because 4.5 minutes isn't a long time. The sun's not going to move a long distance, but you got to make sure that it stays in your field of view where you're taking your pictures. You could use a tracking mount or some sort of tracking platform for your camera. Those will also work. Again, it's only 4.5 minutes, so your tracking doesn't even have to be spot on. It just has to be close enough so that 4.5 minutes it keeps the sun in there. A sturdy mount is important. We all know. I mean, we're experienced here, right? Wobbly tripods are, I don't want to talk about it. Make sure it's good, sturdy. If you have a photography tripod, you may want to weight it down to make sure that it stays nice and sturdy. That's cool too. All right. The other thing that's really handy is to have a remote trigger. Okay, so this one here plugs into my camera. Got a little button on here. And every time I push the button, it triggers the camera. There are also things called intervalometers that will automatically take pictures. You set it up and it'll take a picture like every 10 seconds, every 5 seconds, every 20 seconds, whatever you want, until you stop it. Okay. I don't have one, but you can use that as well and take lots of pictures. Okay. Oh yeah. And the other thing is that some people use an app on their phone that tells them when the eclipse is happening. Okay, like first contact, the third contact, and all that for the eclipse. I found that if you're in a crowd, you've got one of those, because somebody's going to be yelling it out. They're going to be yelling it out. First contact, 10 seconds, get ready. Okay, got it. All right, so if you're in a crowd, you probably don't have a problem with that. But if you're by yourself, you may want to get the app that tells you that. We have a question over here. Yes. Comment about the timer thing. Can we get if it's a comment, we need a microphone. If it's a question, I can repeat it.
Because I went to National Camera to get the remote trigger for it, and they didn't have them. But he looked at my camera and he said, "Oh, really? All you have to do is set the delay for like 2 seconds or 5 seconds. Push it and then stand back so you're not moving the camera.
You can. You can do that too. Yeah.
It's an option, but then your finger gets really tired of counting and the intervalometer will
Yeah.
do
And
you.
I'm,
much
I'm
better.
going to talk about this. It also takes a lot of attention to the camera to do that. I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay. All right. All right. Next. Smartphone, right? So if you want to take a picture with your smartphone, there are adapters that you can put onto a tripod for a smartphone. The problem is, again, the sun is a very small target. Okay. And you need to have some sort of solar film to go over the lens on your smartphone. I don't know how you do it, frankly, just with a smartphone. It does have telephoto feature. I don't know. Talk to somebody who's smarter than me about that. What you can do is you can get an adapter that clamps onto an eyepiece and allows you to center your iPhone camera over the eyepiece so that you can take pictures through your eyepiece. I have done this successfully. I'll show you in just a minute. And it's not too bad. It works pretty well. And that's why I think you can use a smartphone to take a picture. Now, I've not taken a picture of a solar eclipse with this, but I have taken a picture of the sun. This is a picture of the sun back when there weren't any sunspots. But there was Mercury right there. So I took a picture of the transit of Mercury with my smartphone through my telescope. So I think you could probably do a solar eclipse with your smartphone through your telescope. I almost forgot something very important. On your solar filter, if you're using a solar filter on your telescope for the total eclipse, the annual eclipse doesn't matter because you never take your solar filter off for your annual eclipse. But for the total eclipse, when it gets to totality, you got to be able to take off the solar filter. Okay. Take off the solar filter quickly and then take pictures during totality. And then at the end of totality, you got to put it back on again. So you need to have your solar filter loose enough that you can take it off and put it back on quickly. Fortunately, your telescope's pointing up most of the time, so that shouldn't be a problem. Okay. Did you have a question? Okay. All right. Practicing. 2017, 2 days before the eclipse. I've already practiced at home, but I got it set up, got my camera set up. I'm taking images here. I am practicing 2 days before the eclipse to make sure I got everything set up. This is my first eclipse, so I wanted this to be to the point where I didn't have to do hardly anything during the eclipse because I wanted to make sure I see the eclipse, and I want to emphasize that in a minute. Okay, and then we got to the place, and of course I got my spot all set up. Here's my son and I. I'm setting up the telescope, getting ready. Okay, it's all good. Got our glasses on. Yeah, all right. Got solar glasses on. Here I am making my final adjustments. Now on my camera, I'll tell you that I set the ISO at one thing at 200, and then the only thing I changed was the exposure time. And I could do that with a little wheel right here. The camera was on manual or bulb, they call it. But you could change the exposure time with this little, I'm sorry, the camera was on manual. Okay, but I set the shutter speed just with this wheel and just make a little click and just change it. So that was pretty easy to do. That's the only thing I had to do. Okay, I'm getting it all set up. Here I am. This is during the partial eclipse. Here I am. I'm up there. I'm looking at it. I'm watching it. Notice in my right hand, I've got my clicker. Okay, because I can just fire things off with my clicker without having to look at the camera because I had my telescope all set up. Okay, I don't have any pictures at totality, but I mean, for me, looking at me at totality, I have pictures of totality. But, okay, so this is partial eclipse coming in. You actually see some sunspots there. Okay, is ISO 200 at 1/400th of a second coming through here. Okay. Yeah. Okay, right there. That's at 1/30th of a second. This is just before I pulled the solar filter off, right? Last sliver of the sun. Here's the diamond ring. Okay. That turned out okay. Okay, that was at 1/30th of a second at ISO 200. Okay. Then I did something that was called bracketing, which means you take several pictures of the total solar eclipse at different shutter speeds. Okay, because you don't know which one for your camera is going to be the best. So here's one at 1/30th of a second. Here's one at 1/13th of a second. Here's one at 1/5 of a second. Okay, so you do that because there's no way of practicing what your speed is going to be at totality because you don't have totality to practice with. Okay. And then we get to the other side. That's actually Bailey's beads. You can barely see them up there. Got that. And then the other diamond ring. And then we're back to the solar filter on. Okay. Now, when you're doing, who has never seen a total solar eclipse? Oh my gosh. One person. Okay. Two persons. Okay. So if you decide to go see this total solar eclipse, I think it's perfectly okay not to take any pictures at all and just enjoy the total solar eclipse. And Ron's going to talk more about how you can do that. Okay. But I'm going to tell you this too. If you want really good pictures of the total solar eclipse, go online the next day on the internet, and there'll be dozens of them, and all of them will be better than yours. All of them. Okay. All right. This happens to be taken by the guy who's probably one of the foremost authorities in total solar eclipses, Fred Espenak. And Mr. Espenak, he had, when he took this picture, he had two cameras, two different telescopes at different settings, and he stacked it all together and had this amazing image of this. But the amazing thing about this is pretty much what you see with your naked eye, though. That's why I say don't miss the eclipse, because you see a lot more with your eyes than you think at totality. Okay, this is his website, mysteryeclipse.com. I highly recommend you go and visit this website. He has everything you could possibly want to know about total solar eclipses and photographing them and setting it up. Anything you need to know is on this website. Okay, on selecting a site, I think he's got a link to this, but the greatamericaneclipse.com has the maps of where the eclipse is going to be, and you can look at that too. Okay. Any questions? In my car. Because I'm leaving tomorrow to go down to Oklahoma for some stargazing, and then we're going the 14th to Albuquerque to see the annular eclipse. And I have 3 cones with me because we have a lot of people. So we're going to block off part of the parking lot. We'll have that. I'll practice when I'm down in Oklahoma. No, I didn't practice with the cone, but thanks anyway. Ron,
Yeah, Dave.
do you have anything to say about total eclipses and stuff to do?
I do. You want to unshare?
I will be glad to unshare.
I just have one question.
One question.
Do you consider yourself an astrophotographer?
I do not.
I think you are.
I do not.
By the definition, you attached a camera to a telescope. Astrophotography. I think it is.
Stop share. I'm sorry. Stop share. That's right.
Yeah. There you go.
Sir, it's yours.
I'm on it. Make it happen, Kevin.
Here you go.
Oh, wait, I got to do this thing again. Sorry. Nope.
Oh, one other thing.
Yes, back in.
I almost forgot. A lot of these DSLR cameras have this really cool thing called an articulated back end where you open it up and you can swing the screen and see it anyway. Mine does not. Okay. So, but what I got was this nifty thing. Okay. It attaches to my flash boot, my flash foot there. And you can change the angle of this and everything. And it's a bigger screen, and it basically duplicates what's on my screen onto this screen. Okay, really nice. And one other thing, on your camera and on this thing or whatever you've got, bring extra batteries because you're going to be there for a while. Or get an AC adapter for your camera and plug it in. Hey, Rob,
What?
there a question?
Question online.
Have you ever done any or still do any film astrophotography?
Do you still do any film astrophotography?
Film astrophotography? No, I haven't done that for 30 years. I actually did. My first was the partial solar eclipse of 2000. 2000? Canon AE1 on a 4.5 inch Newtonian. Unfortunately, Mother Nature decided to cloud up partway through the show. Yeah, I understand. Okay.
Dave, there's a question online.
Question online.
Yeah, somebody's asking, DSLR with a pinhole and no filter, would that work?
DSLR with the pinhole and no filter, would that work? Okay, so I explained at the beginning that I was not an astrophotographer, right? So that my knowledge is very limited on this. The answer to your question is I don't know. Okay. I don't know.
No. I think that's a hard no. If you put a pinhole on the front of your camera screen, the focused image is just like 1.5 inches away. That's going to make a tiny little dot. Have you ever taken a magnifying glass, made a tiny little dot of the sun on a leaf or your younger brother? Boom. There's some horrible images online from cameras that didn't make it past 2017. So some guy grabbed one of those big, what do you call those again? One of those big super lenses, not just long focal length, but the bazooka. Cooked the iris, just melted it. Takes it back to the shop. Okay, I'm done with my rental. Tries to slip out into the night. Hey, I'm back. I hope you've recovered from asteroid autumn. I'm still just buzzing about it. It's got me tickled. But something such that's equally amazing is an eclipse trip. Now, like Dave said, the guy last time took a lot of the stuff we were going to talk about. And then my partner in crime took a lot of the stuff I was going to talk about. So we may double up a little bit, but the part of it I wanted to cover, I don't do astrophotography. I will clearly admit it. You can toss tomatoes at me later. I'm a big fan of the eyepiece. There's a telescope up on top of a 3-story silo at Buffalo River State Park, halfway between Troy Lakes and the University of Moorhead. Belongs to the University of Moorhead. They run it out of there. You can show up on the open house the first Tuesday of each month. What an awesome schedule. Anyway, they wanted to put a telescope at the interpretive center, but the interpretive center is bordered by trees. To get up out of the trees, they put the telescope, a 16-inch Cassegrain, up on top of this big 3-story silo. And on open house nights, everyone gathers on the ground level at the TV. And they get to watch what they put on the TV. You could put anything on a TV. The Pillars of Creation from Hubble. Yeah, that's a pretty good view. Yeah, how about that? Photons made it all the way here. At least you could do it the favor of showing up, right? You know, that thing came from 2.5 billion light years away to destroy itself at the back of your eyeball and become an electrical signal that makes your jaw drop open. I mean, come on. You know, yeah, if you're going to just pull up like Dave said, you can find all sorts of pictures the next day or a couple days later because Aspenak had to work like 22 different frames to put that thing together. I don't remember last time Mike Shaw was talking about photography and I asked him what he thought about the whole painting more than picture. You get inside and the dodge and the burn and the despeckle and, you know, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little colorization. And now you've got something that doesn't represent at all what you see. Well, that too is art. So I've got room for that. Okay, I'm cool with that. That's good. Dustin Gibson, former owner of OPT, he got a lot of smack for doing that because he really put the volume up on some of his stuff. And no, it's not going to look like that if you pull up in your spaceship and that's not on the Omega. What the heck, you know? So yeah, okay. But it made a pretty picture. And I think that's part of it. Part of it's just getting wild by this stuff. So I'm going to talk about the little wild part of an eclipse trip. Yes, practice. It made my list too. Yeah. So planning ahead includes picking your spot. Now, of course, Fred puts out this map of all the eclipses everywhere forever. This is really helpful because this will help you pick your spot. I used to do courses at the Science Museum in Minnesota. They had a adult travel program, and we ran a couple of eclipse trips through that. And the people we would get on these trips were people that just traveled in general. But where they would go, they would decide through various means. But one of them was like, well, where's the shadow this year? Oh, it's in Angola. We've never been there. Let's go there. No, seriously, that was how they chose. Thor's got a great story of going to see one in Eastern Africa, a part of the world he wasn't going to visit. He had no plans for that, but the eclipse is there. Boom. And now he's in Eastern Africa. It makes for a wonderful experience to go into those places. When in Rome, do as Romans do. Don't go to the American restaurants, go to the local restaurants. Don't hang out with the Americans at the hotel and talk about, well, my fifth eclipse, blah, blah, blah. Find some locals and talk about it. We were driving to an eclipse site in Africa, little kids standing along the side of the road doing, gimme, 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 goggle sign. Gimme, 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 goggle sign. It was adorable. They knew they needed eclipse glasses. We pulled over and gave them some. And I even cut the price a little bit. I'm magnanimous that way. I kid. So this will tell you where the eclipse is at. As Dave said, picking your spot includes looking at the weather. And part of picking your spot, as you look along that path, you think, well, what's good weather-wise? But also, there's some great resources out there for you. This is a map made by Xavier Jouvy, and it's fantastic. It's everything I ever wanted in an eclipse map because it uses Google Maps, and he just has the path of totality coded in. And then what you do is you go to wherever you want to go, and you can zoom all the way down to street level, just like you can on Google Maps. And there you see, there's the path of totality running dead center through downtown Buffalo. You click on it, and it will tell you the specific timing for that site. How long is totality? When is first contact? When is second? When is third? When is fourth? It's all there. And all you have to do is click. It's a miracle because you might end up finding a spot that, oh, well, this spot is perfect and it's not in downtown Buffalo. Because one thing you got to be concerned about is getting out of there when they're done. We'll talk more about that later. Hey, here are weather patterns. Be weather aware, not just is it going to be cloudy, but do we have a flow? Do we have a weather flow at this time of year where they have these typical storms? Don't check with the weatherman here in Minneapolis. Check with the weatherman in Buffalo, where you're going to go watch the eclipse from, or down in Albuquerque next week. Okay, check with the local weather because they know more. I mean, hey, Dave Dahl had it on lock, man. So the local guys know what they're talking about. Here is a map color-coded to tell you the fraction of clouds that you're going to see. Yes, for April 8th, a lot of the northern half of the United States has got a preponderance of clouds, at least 70% or better. It's not always about weather, as Dave said. You know, you can wait until closer to the eclipse, unless you're like really, really going somewhere. I mean, if you're like, yeah, I'm planning on going to Indianapolis. Well, I think I'll go to San Antonio instead. Have you driven to Texas before? When you drive past that sign that says, welcome to Texas, you're not halfway yet. Texas is huge. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind if you're thinking a road trip in it. It's like, oh yeah, Mexico's not that far, right? That's going to bite you. That's going to bite you. So check out the path along. Look for the monthly trends at that time. And yes, have a second option. There are all sorts of resources. Airports have a lot of data. So you can get in to the weather stations at airports through the National Weather Service, and you can look up close and find out, well, how are we doing with downtown Buffalo? Hey, you know what? Cleveland's better. Maybe you hit Cleveland instead. But if you notice, there are some places that are really dropped off. Of course, Mexico is a big chunk of that. But down here in Oklahoma, Dallas, Arkansas, your chances get a lot better if you head down there. So do your cloud homework. Pick an interesting foreground. I've seen a lot of eclipse pictures, and the ones that really resonate with me are ones where you can tell where they were. Mike had a great one from the Tetons. Worked in the mountain range there, dynamite. This is the Arch of Apollo at C-Day. We were just west of there for 2006. And yeah, it's an ancient arch from like 280 AD, and eclipse is right over the top of it. Now, you got to do a little maneuvering to get down low enough to get a shot above like that. I asked my daughter to send one from 2017. I told her to take a picture of her and her husband as they were looking at totality. Take a picture with the camera on the ground, looking up at them with totality behind them. And don't forget to use a flash. It's gorgeous. But she didn't make it in time. So sorry, Kate. Interesting foreground, the St. Louis Arch. There you go. I mean, it instantly adds context to your adventure. Stuff like that is really cool. Now, you may not notice that if you're going to some place where you haven't been before, but you might have to go to a different part of the internet to look at the other stuff they have, any features they have, any places of interest. Check the Chamber of Commerce. They might have a list of things. Check out Yelp or places like that where they talk about attractions. Anything you can find to help set that tone. Practice includes having enough water, having a restroom available. I've seen places that, I was going to say deluge, bad word, overwhelmed the local plumbing because they weren't ready for a couple hundred people to show up. All right. And that makes it a problem. So have a plan independent of that. Now, plan for 3+ hours. Dave, you said 4.5 minutes. Make sure you plan for that whole 4.5 minutes. Oh, yeah. We were sitting there watching partial. Oh, totality's coming. And all of a sudden, what was that? Oh, dude, my camera just shut off. What happened? The battery's dead. Dude, did you plan for that? Well, I planned for totality. I didn't plan for 3 hours. You ever practice something where you're not doing anything but sitting there watching the clock run? I know. But when it happens on eclipse day, you got no options. Those reminders are good too. Had a guy leave his filter on during totality. Ouch. Checklists are awesome. They're so helpful. And since you're going to be busy running around, looking at stuff, an audio checklist, even better. Oh, whatever will I do? I don't know. Maybe you have a phone. Could record a video. Set up your little timing marks. Okay, dummy, pull the filter off. There it is, right in your ear on eclipse day. Speaking of plan for 3 hours, the eclipse is 3 hours. Getting out of where you are viewing will typically take just as long. No, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I was in Reserve, Kansas for 2017. There's nothing out here. What? This interstate was clogged for 2.5 hours. So I didn't do it this time, but what I usually do when I go to air shows is I know once the Blue Angels are done, everyone's gone. And the bus line is going to be 2 hours long. So I just sit there. We pull out our after show cooler and we just go to town. And then as the static displays leave, you get to watch that F-18 pull out and you get like a little after show. And then after about an hour and a half, 2 hours, you head out to the bus and no lines anymore. So have a plan for after. Because after totality, once totality is done, people are like, oh yeah, this is a rerun. We just saw this part. Yeah, partial's going to last for another hour and a half. If you want to stay for all of it, plan accordingly. But you might have people in your party who are like, aren't we done? Didn't we see this? Yes, honey, we did. Just be a little longer. And plenty of food. Don't count on food being there. I know we don't have any youngins in this group like my kiddos, but they always seem to think that everything will just work out okay because they have their phone. Do you know where you're going? Yeah, I have my phone. No. Do you know where you're going? Do you have some food along? Yeah, we're just going to order when we get there. No. Some food along. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be like, Blue Apron, bring it out in the middle of the forest. No, but just have enough that you're going to be okay if you end up in that 3-hour traffic jam afterward. Shelter is a good one. Now, why would I have to worry about shelter? If it's cloudy, I'm not going to see anything. Right. But what if it was nice and clear and now you're sitting in that traffic and now the weather's getting iffy? So just consider that too. Consider especially a plan C and a plan D and a plan E. Yeah, interesting feature. US hotel rooms, they don't let you reserve more than a year out. Because if they think you're going to make a reservation for November of 2024, but it's okay, it's not until next year. They go, oh, no, you don't. Because you're going to show up next month and say, well, I made a reservation. So they think you're going to screw up the year. So they don't do that. You have to wait at least a year, but it does pay to call over and over again. Also, call ahead for your site. Get to know the people that you're going to go visit, where you're going to park. If there's a campground, if there's a parking lot, if there's some guy's yard, get to know them. Find out what they need. Be a responsible user of their facility. I mean, be nice. There were some farmers that opened up a place in 2017 and, you know, the guy right next door is charging $20 a car. Yeah, and the other guy's like, no, just park it here. Just make sure you park it close enough. We're going to fit a lot of cars in here. You know, he's being considerate. You should be too. And again, a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. Now, if you're planning to do astrophotography, that may mean throwing all your stuff in the back of your car and driving away, hustling somewhere else. If you've got a crew of people, I had that in 2017. You weren't really going to take everyone with you. And if you go by yourself, forget Thanksgiving, okay? You're off the list. Oh, here's Ron. Just took off. Where'd he go? I don't know. Let's go, everybody. So make sure to have a plan that includes everybody if you're going to move. I love Bill Glass's story where they were going to see an eclipse in China and the entire country was clouded out, raining. When I tuned into the webcast, the camera had raindrops on it. The day before they got together, well, it's going to be rainy. There's a plane at the airport. It's going to leave tomorrow morning for India. Who wants to go? Yep. So that's what I mean by plan C and plan D. I'm a big believer in plan D. I used to travel on the road. I'd be gone for a week, home for 2 months, gone for a week. So it wasn't excessive, but it was kind of live without a net. So you made sure to bring a net and a backup power supply, backup batteries, backup computer, you know, all that stuff. And yes, you might haul it every single time and you never have to use it. But then there's that one time, and it's like, the clouds open and you're all set. Practice can include Stellarium. Stellarium's got some really nice features in it. If you're unfamiliar with Stellarium, shame on you. I've got like 5 or 6 of these different computer programs. This one doesn't cost anything. You can do it for absolutely free. So you go out to stellarium.org and you can download it to your Mac or PC, and it's absolutely amazing. Let me pop it up. Here we are in Albuquerque on the 14th. Stellarium allows you to see the world from anywhere on the planet at any date and any time. So you can just go right ahead to your longitude and latitude of wherever you're going. You can enter that, a custom location if you need one. And then you simply go ahead and run the clock. And you can watch what's going to happen. Where is the moon coming from? How long is it going to take? You can do it real time and do your practice there. Then you really get an idea. It's an hour. We're still in a totality. What's going on? Okay. It'll be helpful. It'll moderate your expectations and speed up a little bit more until we get to annularity. Anyone ever seen annular eclipse? So we've seen a lot of total eclipses, but Mark's the only one seen an annular eclipse. Yeah, they're actually pretty rare, especially if you want to get right there, right in the center. I think Dave mentioned a little bit as you move out now with Mr. Jupier's map, you can go off the center line and you can wander out to like the edge of totality. I wouldn't recommend it, but I've seen some people that have great success out there because the edge effects around the moon are a lot more pronounced. You see the chromosphere, you see the prominences, you get to see them a lot more. Your eclipse really shortens up. So I wouldn't dabble with that because that timeline is like gold for me. I'm just like, let me stick with that. But that's what you can do with Stellarium. You can run through, practice exactly what you're going to see on the day, what's it going to look like, what happens next, and the timing of it all. So that can be your the film that you practice to. Make sure you arrive early, unless you've got a cone. You crafty, crafty so-and-so. That's a great idea. Stop at Home Depot on the way home. Again, a lot of people will not arrive early. You arrive early. You get what you need to. You get all set up. You're ready to go. Patient. Consider others, because some others might not arrive early. And they'll think, well, we can just set up right next to this guy. I mean, it's just this telescope over here. No one's at that. He won't mind. So don't be ashamed to pull out some orange cones, or some blankets work great. You fold them out. It kind of gives this natural sense of, oh, that's that guy's space. Don't get greedy, but, you know, kind of a trust but verify. Just communicate your intentions. Of course, don't forget to hydrate. Do not forget to hydrate. When you start getting into the process and you're not paying attention to what your body needs, all of a sudden you're seeing bunnies and you're feeling a little fuzzy. Come on, you got to be sharp. Totalities in 3 minutes. Let's go. So make sure to hydrate. Pack spares. Spare water. Plan for 3+ hours. Don't just plan for 4.5 minutes. Spare food, spare clothes, spare batteries, spare tools. Bring the tools that you need to fix it. Oh, I got that wrench. Where is it? At home. Oh, no good. No good. Tape. Gaffer's tape. You guys know gaffer's tape? Gaffer's tape's awesome. Gaffer's tape is what duct tape always wanted to be. And it never quite made it. Like, duct tape, you're cute, but oh, gaffer's tape. So look it up. They have it everywhere. Great stuff. And then, of course, Eclipse glasses, bring some extra. They're less than $1. By the way, Dave, not only do we have 2 sites that sell them, but in 2017, Amazon got some notes from people that said, hey, people are selling these glasses online and they're not certified. They're not ISO certified. Now, that doesn't mean that they're dangerous. It just means that they haven't been certified that they're not dangerous. So Amazon said, that's it. We're only going to sell certified glasses from now on. So there's a resource for you if you want to look somewhere else to find some glasses. Don't forget to look. Don't forget to look. Look around. You will see plenty of pictures of the eclipse, but none of those pictures will have the people that you went with, except yours. Unless, of course, you don't take them. Other stuff's going to be happening as you get towards totality. The partial sun will show up through tiny little pinholes in something like a colander or your fingers, or maybe a tree. Look at the ground underneath the tree. There are all these little crescent suns. And this gets really freaky. Bring a straw hat. I'm not kidding. It will blow your mind. Because shadows are a 2-dimensional thing, right? There's a shadow in my head. Turn your head. Wait a minute. It actually rotates like it's in 3D. It's incredible. I couldn't find a picture of it. Even when you take a picture of it, you can't quite capture it because it's that motion. It looks ethereal. It's actually like you've got a 3D shadow, is the best way I could describe it. So your hat's keeping you cool in the sunshine. You take it off. Watch this, kids. Whoa! Gonna blow their mind. Now, what are you going to cast that image upon? You're going to put it on a shadow band trap. You can take the sheet from the hotel. Just return it when you're done, please. I like to bring my own. It's something, don't forget something to stake down the corners. As you get to that last little bit of a crescent, the sun starts to wave shadows on the ground. The best way to describe it, if you look at the sunshine at the bottom of a pool, it's the same thing. The sunlight goes through, the water refracts it. Constructively in some spots, destructively in other spots, it produces kind of a funny pattern on the floor. And that's what the shadow bands do. If you've got a nice white sheet, they're plain as day. Plain as day. Bring it along. Just have it sit there and watch for them. The approaching shadow. Some people got their head down, watching what's going on. Hey, focus up. No, look around. If you've got mountains or something, you can actually see the shadow coming up over the mountains. It's ridiculously fast, but you can watch for it. Of course, the diamond ring, amazing. Don't take your glasses off before totality. But take your glasses off before. Otherwise, you're going to miss the diamond ring. Okay, so do this thing. Nope. There it is. So for those of you listening at home, I told them to wear their glasses all the time. This is recorded, right? Yeah. Okay. As we get close to totality, when the sun is completely covered, you can take your glasses off. But you do have to get a little bit of the sun in order to see the diamond ring effect. So do a little dodgy, bang, you'll see it. Ailey's beads come after the diamond ring. I don't care what Mark Jarvis says. Show up the sunlight shining through the mountains on the moon. You can see the pink of the chromosphere as the last little bit of the sun disappears. There's some from Fred Espenac. Just a whole string of them. Delightful. The chromosphere, the hot pink atmosphere of the sun, not the corona. This is the chromosphere directly above the photosphere. It's ionized hydrogen, why it's hot pink. And we don't get to see it except during an eclipse. Yeah. Even a coronagraph doesn't get close enough for it. The moon nails it. It's a part of something you never get to see. The corona, of course, and like Dave said, this is more drawing than picture. But this is what your eyes will see. And that's the amazing part about it. Usually the equipment does better. Oh, that nebula is just a fuzzy blob, but look at my picture with my camera. I took a time exposure. It looks awesome. Eclipses are the other direction. Cameras don't do it justice. Your eye can pick up those differences, those subtle changes in the light. The sky becomes this wonderful purpley silver. The corona is ridiculously big. You can't imagine so big. And this is cheating because the darkest thing in the sky is where the brightest thing used to be. To me, it looks like someone pulled the plug on the drain and the sky is draining out through that hole into oblivion. I get goosebumps just thinking of that. Amazing. We are getting near solar max. Near solar max, the corona is much busier, much less symmetrical. So we should see a corona like that as opposed to one during solar minimum, which is still amazing and all, but it's not like all over the place like we see typically during solar max. So expect that. Look for planets and bright stars. This is April 8th. We will see below the sun. Venus will be super bright. Saturn and Mars, you might pick up. Mars is a tough slog. Jupiter, of course, you'll be able to see very easily. And then some of the stars of the winter circle will be out. Sirius, Rigel, Betelgeuse, Aldebaran, all plenty bright to see during an eclipse. So watch for those as well. Again, this is the practice part. Stellarium, constellations on. Oh, yes, there we go. And now you know where to look. 260 degrees of sunset. If you're in a little valley, you're going to miss that. If you're up on a mountain peak, you get to see the shadow coming and you get a wonderful vista all around you. Looks like sunset. Amazing, amazing. Pay attention to the weather. The temperature drops a little bit. Now, the shadow is a really temporal thing. It's very small. It's a very local thing. You get a breeze coming from the side, temperature's not going to change. It actually does a little bit. Here's some numbers from 2017. Of course, you'll feel it because even if your body is at the air temperature, when the sun shines on you, you feel warmer. It feels hotter. When the sun goes away, you don't get that radiant effect anymore. You're still just as warm as the ambient air, but you feel cooler because the sun's not shining. It's when they say it's, whatever in the shade, there you go. So this is definitely in the shade. Listen for animals. If you're out in the woods, if you're out around cows, we're out around cows in Kansas. In South Africa, the eclipse was just about to start. And all of a sudden we heard an owl. This little fella right there. Well, that's not him, but that's his species. Haim recognized the call. Can you imagine an owl? Oh crap, it's dark already. Really, wake up. You got to get to work. And then 3.5 minutes later, this is the weirdest day ever. Yeah, we actually heard an owl hooting. That was awesome because the bush got really quiet. The bush is typically all sorts of noisy, so much so that you kind of just ignore it. But all of a sudden, wow, listen to that. I don't hear anything. I know. Crazy. Set a timer. If you've had your face in your camera for 2.5 minutes, someone yell midpoint. At that point, stop what you're doing. If you haven't been looking, and I know you're out there, look. Again, this is a view in front of you that you can't afford to miss. So don't miss it. It's incredible. When totality hits, and you've probably felt this, time slows down. Ridiculously slow. And yet all of a sudden, bang, midpoint. Wait, what? I haven't looked around yet. Look around. Look around. Finally, turn the camera around. Set up a GoPro 10 feet out in front of you, looking back at your crowd. Just let it run. Some of my favorite photography from eclipses has been looking back at the crowd. You want to see some grown-ups cry their eyes out? It's amazing, man. So get those views of people watching the eclipse, of seeing the eclipse, of seeing it happen in front of them. Another thing, and this was back in way back in 98, we had a recorder. We were recording audio. And the recording was amazing. In 1999, we headed to our eclipse site on the bus, and we put the recording on over the speakers. And it gave everyone chills. Because you can hear the noise level from the crowd just coming up and coming up and coming up. And it's like, oh, I know what's next. Just takes you right back there. Celestron did a very nice favor for us back in 2017. They invited people to send their pictures and their video from their eclipse experience. And they put that online in a montage that showed the entire experience through other people's eyes. And again, they had cameras pointed back at their people, which made it a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I'm going to hope the sound comes through, because here's that video.
Ladies and gentlemen, right here in Touchberry.
Oh my God!
Pitch black outside, everybody. It is pitch black.
There you go. Yeah, isn't it? Just gets you right in the spine. Hey, I don't know if you've read this from Ken Wilcox. He wrote a book with Fred Espenak and Mark Littman. Ken's no longer with us, which makes it kind of a little sweet, but he writes this about his favorite eclipse. A family of Amara Indians, descendants of the Incas, had been invited to join us and were given solar filters to view the partial phases. Here they're on the Altiplano. This Bolivian family huddled around their father as totality approached. We kept glancing at them to see what their response to the disappearing sun and the onset of totality would be. A few minutes before totality, the father made the three boys look down at the ground until the eclipse was over. The father feared the souls of the boys would be unalterably affected. Here it comes, someone shouted. Where? Over there, pointing to the northwest. Oh, yes, I see it. It's getting darker now. It's getting real dark now. It's getting really dark now. It's really getting, oh my God. Cheers and gasps accompanied the beginning of totality. It took everything I had to keep my mind focused on the task at hand. And even that didn't work when the lady behind me broke down crying. Her husband wrapped his arms around her. As totality ended, I shot a last few exposures, blinded by my own tears, gave up, and turned around and photographed the couple behind me. As totality began, astronomer Chris Hallis of Lincoln, Massachusetts, felt as if her soul had been raptured into the presence of God, only to fall back to earth at the end of totality. That comes closest to describing what it is to experience a total eclipse of the sun. Except you don't want it to end. You don't want to come back to earth. The Amara Indians were right. All our souls were unalterably affected by that eclipse. But it was and is a sublime experience, one that should be sought and not feared. If you've never experienced totality, you have no idea what these people are talking about. But once you experience it, it makes total sense. It defies description. It defies words. It defies pictures. It's something you just have to exist in. And it's an amazing experience. So if you have the means, and even if you don't, go into Hawk. Get down to totality, because you will be affected by it for the rest of your life. And you can notice it too, because the very first thing you hear after the eclipse is what? Lensinex. Umbraholics. It's a real affliction, people. Yeah, so go get the bug. Thanks for your attention tonight. You guys have a great evening.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody have any questions for either Dave or Ron?
There's a comment from Mark here online.
Okay.
Multiple cameras. Yeah. You have a cheapie for taking the quick snapshots for the crowd around you and such. The better camera for other things, and you have your best camera that's going to be taking the pictures of what you want to observe, the solar eclipse itself. But know your camera, know what it can do in the various conditions. I've had to learn the hard way with my T5. It doesn't like to focus in low light. So I've had to work around that. Again, multiple cameras and learn what they can and can't do.
Exactly. And practice, practice, practice. All right. Well, I think that concludes our evening. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Go to Old Chicago if you want to tonight. Otherwise, we'll see you next month with everybody who is, putting their hat in the ring and talking about some bios and introducing yourself. And we'll see some new faces up here. So thank you.